My fellow Americans, today's the day. Today's the day. How's it going, everybody? Hello. Welcome to the Sprow Show. I'm Sprow, but you can call me Shannon. And today, kids, is the big day, live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the state that will determine the fate of our country. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm not just talking about the where the debate takes place. Oh, no, because, if you already know, I'm in Philadelphia. So it's like, it's just excellent. And the Phillies are playing. Hey, I don't know the score. Has the game started yet? Who cares? Hello. Welcome, guys. Today is the day. Oh, shit. Let me fix it. There we go. All righty then. How's it going, guys? How's it going? How you feeling? How you doing? All right. So, today is the debate drinking game. But first, an announcement. Now, maybe a few people in my personal life, if you're watching, you know this. And a few other people, like if you're watching and you're from, I think I said this on TPP. So anyone from TPP, how you doing? But today, I am 1 week sober. And I know what you're thinking. But Sprow, you're doing the debate drinking game. I'll be playing with root beer. Good root beer, too. But yeah, I am, I guess technically, it's a little over a week. Today is day 8 of sobriety, not a drop of alcohol. That it is, let me tell you, humbling. But just to be transparent, I am an alcoholic. And it has been a very eye-opening week. It was really rough at first, but I feel good. I feel awake and here and present, which is good because today is the day, the debate drinking game. Do I have rules? Yes, I have rules. We're going to go over those in a minute. The debate itself starts at 9 o'clock on ABC, but you can catch it right here. And don't forget, we definitely got that. Even though we were watching it, we will be doing commentary, of course. You know, the whole deal. And again, guys, we also have the I see you in the back. 1 second. We do have the call-in link pinned in the live chat on YouTube. So if you're watching on Instagram or Facebook, the links on both of those are like weird. So if you're watching on either one of those, go over to the YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, subscribe and like the video, please, because that helps us all out over here. You know, we got bills, you know, we got mouths to feed. You heard me? You heard me? You heard me? So please subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe, please.
It helps us out.
Because
it helps us out.
Subscribe, please. Yes.
You know what it is. But this is the debate drinking game. You can play at home if you want. And the guys, it's gonna be like very simple. Because first off, there's like a million debate drinking games like all over the internet, and I kind of just used a little bit of everything from everywhere to kind of compile what ours will be. If you want to call into the show, you don't have to cam up necessarily. It'd be better if you did. However, before I bring you up, I will need to see you in the back chat. Just real quick, you know, give me like a little peace sign. And that is to prevent any, you know, we don't want any corn bombing or gore bombing or anything like that. You know, can't get any, you know, strikes or anything on the page. But we will be going over the rules momentarily, and then we'll just do a little briefing because a few things. My last video upload was about one of the candidates, and what's crazy is I was working on a Trump video, which I don't know, should come out soon, but yeah. Chris, I see you in the back. Yeah, I mean, you guys already know Chris is gonna be here with me. You feel me? I would say I'm an informed normie or a semi-informed normie. Chris, he's his middle of the road, like he is the average guy, just surface level looking in. So his opinion is always good. But before we bring anyone up, I do want to go over the rules of the game. Really quick. Let's see. Let me pull it up. I did make I made a rule sheet, but if I'm honest, like I was having so many technical difficulties earlier today, guys, and it very well may have I don't know what it is with if it's StreamYard or like my connection. But real quick, we're gonna go over the rules for the drinking game. I don't know if you can see that, but either way, I'm reading it. So, and like some games you do like, you know, 1 sip, 2 sip, or like, you know, have bonus things for a shot. But we're just gonna, again, we're all over the place because and again, drink responsibly. Now I'll be drinking root beer, so it doesn't really matter for me. But the rules are, so you drink and take a sip anytime one of these things go down, right? So first one, anytime Trump lies. Second thing, anytime Harris lies. Then we got every time a candidate references the election being the most important election of our lifetime. You take a drink. Take a drink every time Harris references Trump's hush money conviction. Take a drink if Trump uses the phrase border czar. Take a drink if Harris insists she wasn't the border czar. Take a drink anytime, guys, the words Russia, China, or Iran are even uttered And get this, we'll even do the even from the moderators. Like, so even if they say it, like, drink. When anytime Harris references Project 2025, anytime you hear Trump say anything about San Francisco or California, if Trump says Harris covered up Biden's brain melting, drink anytime Harris mentions January 6th, drink anytime Harris calls Trump and or Republicans weird. Drink anytime, and this goes for anybody, anytime women's rights, i.e. abortion, is ever mentioned. Drink whenever Trump mentions migrant crime or the border, period. Drink anytime a candidate promises tax cuts. Drink anytime a moderator cuts off the candidate. Drink anytime Harris's race is mentioned. And by her race, I'm not talking about her political race. Right? We're talking about her ethnicity. Anytime that's ever mentioned or uttered. This was going to be a bonus one, but I'm just going to put it in there. I don't think it'll really happen too much, but anytime Harris laughs. Also drink anytime the candidate doesn't answer the question, which I think we'll probably have to, we'll get into, like, well, what does that even mean? But anytime, they don't answer the question, drink anytime Trump being convicted felon is mentioned, which I guess kind of goes with the earlier one. Drink anytime Trump mentions Biden, period, which we already know he's gonna. Drink anytime Harris mentions Trump's many impeachments. And finally, drink anytime a candidate speaks past their allotted time, which should definitely yeah, that'll be fun. And I'll be looking at the rules in the back. Trust me, kids, I will let you know when you need to drink and when you don't need to drink. But again, guys, we thank you. We thank you for being here with us. Let's see. Let's do a little more housekeeping. Go away. Oh, man. See? Having more tech difficulties. 1 second, kids. Oh, geez. This happens every time. That's the thing about doing live shows, guys. It just happens like that. So, we got Chris here, my man. So we're going to bring him on up. Boom, boom. Yo, guy. What's up?
Hey, Shannon. It's good to see you. Hey, everybody. Everybody watching.
Always. So, are you excited? Probably indifferent.
I'm really curious because I've never seen them in a room together. Obviously, they won't have like an opportunity to interrupt each other because of the mics. But it's still going to be interesting to see them go back and forth. Like that's
yeah. I was literally talking. I was talking to someone earlier about that. Because he had my buddy had mentioned, he was like, oh, Trump's just gonna interrupt and bully everybody, and I was like, I wish, dude. Like, same for her. Like I wish she could do like she did with what was it, Pence, when she was like, can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish? Like, I'm speaking. Like, it's not gonna be like an actual debate. This is gonna be so pacified. It's actually I'm not gonna lie, guys. This could have been it's gonna be entertaining. This could have been way more entertaining if they could talk over each other. Like, that's like some of the fun of a debate. And also, I do want to point out, guys, we will, at the end, we could try to do like a scale to try to see like who won. But again, guys, the winning a debate is not about who's right or wrong, or who's telling the truth or who's lying. Who argues better? That is what a debate, that's any debate. Who argues better? Anyone ever take debate class? It's about who makes the better argument, who wins the argument. Chris, who do you think? Do you have a prediction on who would do better, like strengths and weaknesses for both sides, if you know?
Like I told you, I don't know how it's gonna come out. Because I can't imagine them together. Like they do back and forths, but very very distant. Yeah. I just have expectations. Like, of course, Kamala's gonna bring up her policies and what she wants, and then she's gonna bring up Project 2025, and that was in your drinking game. So I do have expectations, but I do not know what's gonna happen.
I think I was telling you before we got on. She finally, I don't know if it was last night or today, but she finally has her positions up on her site at long last. At long last, finally.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Like, so
Well, for the longest time, she didn't have any, which that's why she was getting a lot of criticism. People were like, "Oh, like we don't really know where you stand." Now, when she was like, touring, like going to different, like touring the country, talking to different cities, talking to different towns, talking to people, doing the campaign run, she's mentioned things that she would like to do, which it's like, okay, that's cool, but I don't know why they didn't have them. I guess you know what it is. I will give her some grace. It was last minute. I don't think this has ever happened. Like something like this has ever happened in the history of our country, where someone just drops out suddenly. Like she didn't really have. Like I'll give her that. She didn't really have to get ready, but at the same time, it's like
I would say
you had
probably
to
like
have known. Which that's why I'm interested to see. I really hope we can drink when Trump mentions her. Like, oh, why didn't you mention? Like, did you? Brain was melting. Problems. Chris, you can hear me, right?
I couldn't hear you. Now I can.
Oh, okay. But I was saying, like I think she should be given a little bit of grace. In light of, it's very last minute for her. Something like this has never happened.
Well, one of the things
So
she was
I'll
vocal
give her a
about.
little.
Oh, my bad. I didn't know you were still talking. I thought you were. I was just gonna
No,
say
no, no. Go
that.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that she said something that pissed off the right, where she was. I think what she was talking about was regulation on price surging, like and something like it had to do with the keyword price gouging, and they kind of like were saying that that was like she was Marxist. Her father's a Marxist. Um, so that's what I know about is she does talk about her policies. I read some of them. They're pretty useless. JD Vance had a great Twitter thread. Um, but yeah, she
Well, we
does
know where
talk about
Peyton
her
stands.
policies. It's just I guess I don't know what you're trying to say. Like she dropped her side. Like what exactly are you talking about?
Like oh, I mean, there's a few actually here. We can, while we wait, we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, we
Let
do.
me pull up her policies. harriswalls.com. Let's see. Kamala, Kamala, oh, Kamala, Kamala, oh, Kamala, 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 Kamala,
I
Kamala,
wish I still had my laptop so I could click through shit too.
Kamala, Kamala. Yeah, I don't know if like if you're on your phone, I don't know if StreamYard lets you open up other tabs. I'm not sure. Probably.
Nah, it doesn't. I tried.
No,
At
I
least
don't want to. Let's see. The issues. Sorry, root beer.
God bless you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. All right. Let me pull up her. Oh yeah, people in the chat are going over this. And like the $25,000 down payment for new homeowners that will just increase the overall cost of buying homes by $25,000. That's interesting. Now, you see, the sucky thing is, me, like most Americans, we don't like to read. Like good example. I downloaded the PDF for Project 2025, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not reading it. It's 995 pages. Like that, like, come on. And get this. I think that the people who wrote Project 2025, and again, I just to reiterate, because we already know it's going to come up a million times. Trump has said a bazillion times that is not like that is not his policy. Like he's not. He even said, he was like, there's some crazy stuff in there. Yes, there are people who are part of that think tank that like are on his team, but I still think, because get this, if it was the other way around, we would, yeah, there would be grace given, right? So I think that's unfair to like give him the benefit of the doubt, because like it's like whenever he says something, it's like, oh well, he's lying. And it's like, come on. Okay, let's check it out. Let me zoom in a little.
Make red home.
All right, here, let's start from the top. Okay. Vice President Harris and Governor Walz are fighting for a new way forward that protects our fundamental freedoms, strengthens our democracy, and ensures every person has the opportunity to not just get by, but to get ahead. As a prosecutor, attorney general, senator, and now vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris always stood up for the people against predators, scammers, and powerful interests. That's funny. She promises to be a president for all Americans, a president who unites us around our highest aspirations, and a president who will always fight for the American people. From the courthouse to the White House, that has been her life's work. Sexy. I can dig it. Okay. I'm not against that. I'm not against that. I mean, that's again, and that sounds good, right? You would agree, right? That sounds good. Can you see this?
Sound good. That does sound good.
Christian, you can see this, right?
I can see it. Can you hear me?
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can hear you. All right. Build an opportunity economy and lower costs for families. Vice President Harris grew up in a middle-class home. Okay, useless. Vice President Harris has made it clear that building up the middle class will be a defining goal of her presidency. That's why she will make it a top priority to bring down costs and increase economic security for all Americans. As president, she will fight to cut taxes for more than 100 million working in the middle class Americans while lowering the cost of everyday needs like healthcare, housing, and groceries. She will bring together organized labor and workers, small business owners, entrepreneurs, and American companies to create good-paying jobs, grow the economy, and ensure that American continues to lead the world. Now, I'm guessing okay, Jesus, there's so much to read. You know what? Look, let's be lazy Americans. Cut taxes for middle-class families, make rent more affordable and home ownership more attainable, grow small businesses and invest in entrepreneurs, take on bad actors and bring down costs. And guys, so like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna read, like, these are like surface level things. Obviously there's details for all of these, and the same thing goes for Trump, guys. Now with these politicians, they'll name things and like they'll say like, oh, that's what I'm doing, but it really is in the details. So here's what we're gonna do. Chris, since you're the resident just regular Joe looking in, I'm gonna read each point like surface level, and if anything sounds interesting, we'll go over and read like the deets. All right. So personally, I thought take on bad actors and bring down costs was interesting, because I wonder like how she would define that. As Attorney General of California, Kamala Harris took on the big banks to deliver for homeowners, stood up for veterans and students being scammed for nonprofit colleges, and colleagues and fought for workers and seniors who were defrauded. That's awesome.
You're right.
As president, she will. Oh, I did. Okay. Oh, see, guys, America. As president, she will direct her administration to crack down on anti-competitive practices that let big corporations jack up prices and undermine the competition that allows all businesses to thrive while keeping prices low for customers. And she will go after bad actors who exploit an emergency to rip off consumers by calling for the first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging on food and groceries, which will build on the anti-price gouging statutes already in place in 37 states. Okay, so there's anti-price gouging in 37. Why are people against that? I would argue, just from my understanding of it, from the way it sounds, that's because we're, capitalist. Like I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, guys.
Absolutely
So
right.
a lot of
You're absolutely right. Like it's
Like,
like yeah, no, you kind of hit it in the head. It's the best interest for corporations to do like price fixing, like during a time like, oh, it's inflation, like but they don't get regulated for that. So I guess she says that she has a solution for that to not happen, as her being a sitting president, if that were to happen.
isn't that, I would argue that that's a little, I can see why people would be a little skeptical of that, because I'm not gonna lie, and this is a buzzword, and I know a lot of people will be like, "Ugh." It does sound kind of commie, just a little bit, guys, because it's like, it's the government getting more and more involved. And I thought kind of the purpose of our country was that we wanted as little government interference as possible in people's day to day. Peyton says that's not the job of the AG, though. She was upholding the law, not fighting those policies. Yeah, which, I've heard, like, so another thing, people, and I've said this during the other shows about the election and stuff, like, she's now, and guys, the VP I don't think has as much power as even the president, guys. Like, it really is like, the board, as it were, who finalizes things. But like, I don't understand why she's acting like it could just be like automatic, like by default. She's kind of going into like, oh, I'm running for president, so I have to. It's kind of like we just act like, oh, I'm not president, so when I become president, change is going to come. But it's like, you are the vice president. You've been the right hand for 4 years. So like, what? And again, I'm going to pitch my idea again. If she really wanted to, like, this would help her so much. These things that you're trying to do, go try to put them in place now while you can. Because here's what'll happen. Either it'll get approved and then she looks like a hero, right? Or the mostly Republican, cabinet will reject it. And then she can be like, you see, they don't really care about you. I tried and they said no. That either way, like if she were to just go to them and be like, yo, let's try to put some of this stuff in place now, no matter what the outcome, she would look really, really dope. And yet she doesn't do it. I wonder why. Last paragraph. Just as she did as vice president, she will take on big pharma and lower drug costs and cap insulin costs, not just for seniors, but for all Americans. And she'll keep fighting to bring down prescription drug costs by taking on pharmacy middlemen who raise consumer prices for their own gain and squeeze independent pharmacy profits. Okay, yeah, and that's something that, like, I mean, because I'm not gonna lie, let's keep it a buck, people. The Biden-Harris administration, they're I'm not gonna lie, they're just kind of milquetoast. They haven't really done much. If anything, things have gotten a little worse, just objectively speaking on paper. And something that like Biden was going to like, oh, we lowered the cost for drugs. First off, that thing won't go into place until 2026. And it's like, remember during that CNN interview, and she was like, oh, this old lady brought me her receipt to compare the prices. That's a bull-faced lie, because you can't compare the prices when the things haven't changed. Talking about she spent thousands of dollars on insulin in like a month or 2 months or something like that. And I'm sorry, guys, that's bullshit. It is expensive. Don't get me wrong. And I'm sure that once it gets in place, it'll probably help some people, like the seniors or whatever, But again, it just looks fishy when it's like, yo, you've been there. Okay, strengthen and bring down costs of healthcare, protect and strengthen Social Security and Medicare, support American innovation and workers, provide a pathway to the middle class through quality, affordable education, invest in affordable child care and long-term care, lower energy costs, and tackle the climate crisis. Oh, and look, they have a little tab here for Trump's Project 2025 agenda. I'm sorry, that's just interesting right here. Okay, Vice President Harris calls agenda. Oh, wait a minute. I wonder. Oh my God! Wait! Do you see it? Okay, guys. Okay, so look, for each point, right? For each surface level point, you get the little points, right? On how she'll do this surface, like in short, like, so for the first one, you have build an opportunity economy and lower costs for families. And then you have like all the different ways in which she will do that. And then you have Trump's Project 2025 agenda. Then you got safeguard our fundamental freedoms, You have the points, and then you got Trump's Project 2025 agenda, ensure safety and justice for all. You got the points, and then you got, okay, so this is, I'm sorry, this is, fuck. She makes it so hard to root for her. Like, come on. Come on.
I mean,
How many times does he have to say, huh?
Do you want to root for her? Like, do you like really want to root?
You know what I want? I
What do you
don't
want?
want to be I don't want to be biased because I've been so incredibly convinced like otherwise, if that makes sense. Like, it's just like, oh, like, can you bring up something? And I'm not gonna lie, Trump does it too. He does mention Biden. You know, he's still butthurt because he lost in 2020. That's fair, whatever. But it's like all they do is talk about Trump's 2025. You're like, oh, this is the stuff I'm trying to do, and here's what Trump's trying to do. Arr. I would just talk about what I'm trying to do. I would just be like, yo, man, I'm the shit.
I mean, that's politics as usual. Like, you'll hear the other candidates talk about, yeah, it's like what it is. Yeah. To me, I think the divide. I think that, like, the close percentages that Trump has on Kamala Harris is the fact that originally, when it came to the Democratic election in 2020, we wanted Bernie Sanders, but we didn't get him. We got Biden. Because I think they called it Bloody Tuesday. Like, all these politicians just dropped out the same day and endorsed Biden, and then he ended up winning. You know, he wasn't the guy we really wanted. And then in that outcome, now we have the vice president. You know, the other candidate that we didn't really want running for president. And now the best sell is that she's the lesser of two evils. Like to some people, like, that are unsure about how
I was gonna say, is she?
like how Democrats spend money versus how, like, like both of them have like different perspective on economics, like differences in regulations for corporations, and differences in I guess affirmative action, like things like that, like diversity. Like, there's differences with the two sides. So when it comes to the politicians, like in this being Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, like, that are representing each side, like, there's a division between both of these candidates, like these Republicans and Democrats. Both sides have different opinions. Like, you hear about Republicans that don't like Trump ever since January 6th, and then you hear Democrats that don't like Biden because, like I said, that wasn't the guy they wanted. They wanted Bernie, you know?
1 second. Harris's issues. I wanted to create a banner so that way the kids know what we're talking about. All right. Safeguard our fundamental freedoms. Vice President Harris's fight for our future is also a fight for freedom. In this election, many fundamental freedoms are at stake. The freedom to make your own decisions about your own body without government interference. The freedom to love who you love openly and with pride. And the freedom that unlocks all others, and freedom to vote. Okay, so we already know. Look, she's only got 2 points here. So first off, I'm sorry. And yes, we're definitely going to read restore and protect reproductive freedoms, because what are you restoring? Because kids, I'm sorry. Abortion isn't going anywhere. It's never going anywhere. It's not going away. And the narrative, and which is crazy because you guys, does anyone understand how much Trump gets booed by his own party because he's pro-choice? Yes. If you didn't know, Trump is pro-choice, guys. I don't know how many times he has to say it. I don't know how many times I have to say it. He's pro-choice. He just wants it. He has said multiple times he wants it to be left up to the states. However, he does want to put some things in place so that way, in the event of rape and or incest, you can get the care that you would like, if that is something you would choose to do, ladies. As well as I think he wants to put like a cap on it, like 6 months, I think he said. So like, so no matter where you are, so like even if abortion is allowed in your state, it has to be within 6 months. which I think is ever since the Roe v. Wade thing was overturned and they changed the rules, I keep telling people, I'm like, yo, like, compromise. There has to be a compromise, because again, it's like 50-50, guys. Like, some people don't want any abortion. Some people want abortions everywhere. And I get that it's a sticky issue. And what's crazy is, especially, so I'm a guy, right? And I've been told multiple times that, like, I shouldn't have an opinion on it. But I only shouldn't have an opinion on it if I'm pro-life. Now, I used to say I was pro-life. I don't think that that's true. I think I'm pro-choice. I'm just not like, I'm just like, abortion's kind of, again, it's a touchy subject. It's something that wouldn't affect me. And again, for anyone who wants to call in or anyone in the chat, bringing up my daughter in a scenario, I think, is a low blow, and I personally don't give a fuck. So I'm just saying that right now, because, like, I can't tell you how many times I get hit with like, so your daughter, and they give this disgusting, horrifying scenario where, I'm like, I have to choose. And again, like, if that really was the case and that was something my daughter wanted to do, guess what? I'm just gonna go to another state. You feel me?
Some people that are into
Those
politics,
rules.
man, they're fucking crazy. Like, that's just what it is.
So let's read. Restore and protect reproductive freedoms. Vice President Harris and Governor Walz trust women to make decisions about their own bodies and not have the government tell them what to do. Donald Trump handpicked members of the United States Supreme Court to take away reproductive freedom, and now he brags about it. In his words, I did it, and I'm proud that I've done it. He even called for punishment for women who have an abortion. I don't know if that's true. However, again, guys, no one took away reproductive rights. It's at the state level. The states decide. The people decide. So people in a certain state, each state decides what they want to do where they live. Why is that being?
You're bringing up abortion, but there's another thing to bring up that you can bring up, is like sex change operations, I guess. Like, that could also be brought up.
I'm assuming they're gonna get involved in. I'm assuming that they're gonna mention that at some point.
Not even gonna. It's like,
because I did hear
that those phrases would mean both of those terms, or both of those things. Like abortion.
Well, you know what else is interesting? Why do they call it reproductive freedom? Because abortion is literally the opposite of reproduction.
You ask.
I don't like the wording.
Me those things, but to be very honest with you, when it comes to that world, like the transsexual stuff, I know little about it. Like, my only approach to that world is just to sort of like I guess live with it. I haven't really had anybody annoy the shit out of me with that perspective. Like, and I've seen people
not really,
like,
because get this, most trans people aren't cringe like that. Like, it's activists. Like, most of the people who I see like who are like making unreasonable like arguments about the trans issues are people that aren't even trans. It's like mostly like white women. It's weird.
Yeah, and like really
it's like I have trans family members and they're like, yo, this shit is crazy.
I've had two people who are like, I had two dudes who are just like weirdly eccentric, and like they're fucking like all about like trans issues, and they're not gay, but they're weird. They kind of seem gay to me. Like, I don't give a fuck, but they're just weird like that. Like, they just give off a vibe you can't tell who the fuck they are. Like, they're really into that shit. Like, people that are into politics, sometimes they're real fucking weird, and they're like losers. It's like, yeah. But my bad. What I meant to say was, like, you're talking about like the abortion issue. Like, when it comes to them saying like you doing what you want with your body without government interference, I also think about like, the trans rights. That's what it makes me think about. That's all I meant to put in.
Like I said, I'm assuming they're going to get into that, but I think this specifically is about abortion. To continue, since Roe v. Wade was overturned, Vice President Harris has driven the administration's strategy to defend reproductive freedom and safeguard the privacy of patients and providers. As Governor Tim Walz led Minnesota to become the first state to pass a law protecting women's rights to choose following the overturning of Roe, Vice President Harris has traveled America and heard stories of women hurt by Trump abortion bans. They're not for guys. He wasn't even president. I mean, and again, and whenever I say that, they're like, oh, well, he put the people in place that did it. Just because he put the people, just because, like, even if he did hire those people, they're an individual. They're an individual. Now, who knows? Like, now I definitely can see the argument where it's like, oh, birds of a feather. I can definitely dig that. But again, Trump is pro-choice. He's pro-choice. So, like, where is this? Again, it's. But that's politics, kids. And get this, for all you Trump thumpers, he does the same thing. It's hyperbolic. Like, have you seen the political ads? So we're in Pennsylvania, guys, and Trump actually spends the most money here on advertising and campaigning. Pennsylvania has always been good old PA. It's the state that usually determines things there. I don't know, for blue, red, purple, whatever the hell, but yeah, but it's presidential abortion ban, and when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedom nationwide, she will sign it. Now, I like that wording, restore it nationwide. But again, it's like they're saying it like, oh, it's a ban. The states decided, guys. That's why you got to get more involved in your local politics, because real shit, voting for the president, that doesn't do shit for most people. It's the local. It's your local officials and stuff. Like, that's the stuff that I would argue probably affects most people in their day to day. Okay,
Shannon,
so we
at
got
some
5
point,
minutes.
could we put in Trump's policies and look through that too before the debate starts?
We got 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And we're not even through Kamala's, but you know what? Here, I'm actually gonna set that up now because it's almost showtime, kids. And actually, if you got to use the bathroom, kids, go do it now. Let's see. Stop screen. All right, let's pull her up. Live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's the 2024, the first. Yeah, I love how have you heard people say, like, they're wording it like, oh, it's the first debate of 2024. But it's like, I highly doubt there will be another one. I highly doubt it, because
they were even saying that on the news that they weren't going to have another one.
Yeah, because both of them keep bitching about the rules. And like lastly, I don't know if anyone heard, but so Trump wanted to have the debate on Fox or a network of his choice. They said no, or they weren't going to agree to it. So he was like, fine, I'll do it on ABC. And then they were like, oh, well, we have to do the same rules that we had with Biden. He didn't want to do that, but then he finally bent and agreed. And then, like, last week, Harris's people were like, oh, we want to change the rules again from what we already had, which I thought was odd, because I'm like, well, wait, why do you want to change the rules? Like, they didn't want muted mics. Now, they muted the mics before because, the narrative is like, actually, that's not a narrative. It's 100% true. Trump is obnoxious and cuts people off. And so they were like, they didn't want that. But then they didn't want the mics muted. Why would the Harris people not want the mics muted? Can anyone think of a reason?
Because it'll make Trump look like a dick. Because he'll just, like, talk over you. That's what they're counting on. But the other side was like, well, it makes him look more composed. So keep the mics muted. That was a good idea the first time. Like, the Democrats made a move against themselves. Now they
first off,
don't want it again.
I guarantee you, we're gonna see both of them, like, while the other one's talking. They're gonna be like saying stuff, but you just won't be able to hear them. Or like they're gonna, oh, I should have added any time.
What if you see them like bang the table and shit?
Drink. Everyone's gonna get. It's like, hey, he's fucking lying. She's fucking lying.
They throw shit at each other from each podium side, just from each side of the podium. They're just throwing shit at each other. We're gonna cut the commercial break. Just fucking.
I could totally picture Trump like just like making paper airplanes and like throwing them over, like shit like that. Or like, you remember those paper wasps we used to make back in school?
Yeah.
Like just like flicking some of those at, or spitballs.
Just be like, loser. Like, he's just calling
because it would be Trump that would do that. It totally would.
Yeah, that's funny.
Like she's it's gonna be fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah,
You know, we're
there's
gonna
that.
make America great again. You know, she doesn't really know. I don't even think she's qualified to be president. Truly, truly, if you ask me, to be honest. And then Kamala, yo, you know what I was saying? I was like, yo, have you seen the videos of her like cooking and stuff?
No, I only saw the Axios interview from
Yo,
when she
and
wanted to
I've
be
actually heard her
president
talk about
in
it.
2020. What? I didn't hear you. What did you say?
Oh, like she she can cook. She
Oh,
can
she's a
cook.
very good cook.
I was like, yo, she should lean into that. Can you imagine if she showed up to the debate and she's like, hey guys, I made crab cakes? People would love her. Like, I think like she comes off as being kind of like not I feel like she's not being herself. I feel like if she was more herself, because we don't know, I feel like I don't really know who she is. But
You
I feel
know
like if
when
she was
you
more
know when they're like
herself,
those like football champions or whatever, when those sports people come in and usually they get a like presidential meal. Like if she like cooked for them, like she'll make like 500 crab
yeah, like that
cakes.
would be come on. Auntie Kamala.
Some
Look at
people
her
would
like
say this
coming
is
in there with
sexist because
the
it's like some people would say this is like sexist. Like they'd be like, this is pretty like sexist.
why?
Saying
Because
this
she's a
type of shit.
woman? Like, who cares?
Me
People love
personally, I think me personally, not even like a
first off,
woman or
who
not,
doesn't in
any president that actually cooks for people or would like lead, like be a chef for hundreds of people, like that's cool. That's a cool concept itself.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. I'm like, even if like so first off, everyone loves the company of women. Everyone loves a auntie that can cook. She should lean so much into the like the cooking auntie. I don't even care. I don't care how it sounds. That would be so dope. That would make her look a whole lot better. Kids, it is time, I think. Here we go.
Including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential
Woo!
debate starts right now.
This is an ABC News special, the most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart
Go.
a new way forward.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Faced
Also, something else I wanted to point out. I don't know if anyone knows, but so this is on ABC. Kamala's best friend is the head of the network.
I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News
True
presidential
fact.
debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Phones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss.
No
He
audience.
chose to deliver the final closing
That's
statement
corny.
of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Woo! It's so dead.
They're closer to each other than I thought. They shook hands. There you go. Look at that.
Welcome to you both.
Well, you
It's
got to,
wonderful
man.
have you. It's an honor
Sportsmanship.
to have you both here
All
tonight.
right, here we go.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive
Oh my
for far too
gosh.
many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small business. Mother, part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on any goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would add a year because of his
coming through for you guys?
policies and his ideas
cool. There we go.
about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
Tax
President
cuts,
Trump, I'll give
drink.
you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. They would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It
I think
breaks
that's
up
what a lot of people
countries.
care about.
We have
anything.
inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails. And they're taking jobs that are occupied
migrant
right
crime
now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but
Good.
I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
What?
And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight, the detailed, dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially
cut taxes, drink.
and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic.
It was fantastic.
We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the
If
one
you're
that
watching on
created them.
Instagram,
They
guys,
know it,
we're
and
back.
so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people.
Tax
I
breaks.
am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy. And the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation, and by the middle of
Also,
next
guys, if
year
you want to join
would
us and
invite a
comment,
recession.
click the call-in
You just
link
have to
pinned in
look
the YouTube chat.
at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd
And like the
invite you
video.
to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you, because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They give her that to say.
Oh!
Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and
He
many of those
interrupted her.
professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run.
Trump mentioned Biden.
4
Drink.
sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something.
This is
both
what you were
brought up.
saying.
The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of
To have higher prices is China and all of the countries
China.
that have been
Mention
ripping
China.
us off
Drink.
for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying. What they've done, they've destroyed the economy. And all you
What the hell?
have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris?
What the hell? What's going on? No. What do you mean sign up? Oh, no. Oh, the devil is a lie. 1 second, guys. Oh, no. No. 1 second. Oh, see? The man. Oh, I see what happened. Whoops. 1 second, guys. I am so sorry. It switched accounts. I have several accounts. I don't know why I did that in the middle of it. Here we go. Well, so far, guys, if I was actually drinking alcohol, I probably would have threw up by now.
Yeah, you'd probably be drunk. But your list
He
was
did
sort of
during
like
COVID.
if
Look at his
Trump or
tweet.
Kamala Breves
Thank you,
take a
President
drink.
Xi! Exclamation point. When we know that Xi was
Okay, we're back.
responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origin.
From Taiwan, we hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And
oh, Kamala laughed.
The end of our country. She's a monster in economics to our country. And when you look at these millions and millions.
Can you guys still hear it?
I can't hear it.
Okay, there we go. You can't hear it?
Yeah, I can't hear it.
Yo. Okay, I just paused it. Yo, what the hell? Yo, this is spooky. Can you hear it now?
Nah, yeah, I still can't hear it. It's probably because like you're streaming it, so maybe that's what it is.
Nah, this is fair use, kids. You know what? No. I got something for that ass. I got something for that ass. Ain't gonna get me.
I don't know if the people live can hear it. Can live hear it?
Chat. I mean, I just paused it. Yeah.
I can't really hear you if you're talking.
There we go.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you fade in and out a little bit, so I don't know if you were like far from the mic or whatever.
Okay.
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, actually had said that it was too short, and you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need.
Well, can you guys hear me?
6 weeks, but then
I can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, cool. I was just making sure. Okay.
And said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times.
You mentioned reproductive rights.
That vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor's doing it. Said the baby will be born, and we will what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. That's why I did that.
Is that a lie, Trump?
Because radical, her vice presidential pick, which I think was a hard vice presidential pick, said.
Yo, it keeps muting me and taking the sound away.
Yeah.
Fair use. You know what? No. I ain't gonna do that because I think it might be like because they. Yeah, no. You ain't gonna do that, man. We gonna keep it coming. I'm not. Y'all ain't going. Keep going, guys. Don't worry. I paused it, guys. I paused it. 1 second. We're gonna bring it back up. You feel me? People on YouTube, is it acting weird? Is it going out? I don't know why it keeps doing that. Fair use, guys. You know what? Before we continue, first off, if you're just now joining us, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on Instagram and or Facebook, if you want to join us here on the panel and give your thoughts and commentary, go to YouTube. In the live chat, there is a call-in link. But real quick. So there we go. So yeah, y'all gonna stop messing with me.
Okay. And that's not okay with me. Hence the vote. But what I did is something for to the states, and through the genius and
genius
of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative.
I'm sorry about that. I really do think that this is man.
You're kind of fading in and out. I can't really hear you that much.
I don't know if it's my connection or if the YouTube gods are upset with me, but let's keep it coming, guys.
Kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States, and they entered, and 90 states. a violation to body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body now, or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government and Donald Trump certainly to do her. I have wanted pregnant women who want care denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that.
Oh, the emotional heart. There you go.
You,
that's I'm not gonna lie.
When Congress passes a bill
good.
to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his project that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own.
President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting, and it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban,
which real quick, and like we were talking about it, but like before, but like I if I'm honest, guys, I think yeah, it's a compromise. It is a compromise. You know, so like I don't. This is such a touchy subject.
ban. No, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because
But
this
it doesn't
issue
matter.
has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well,
came
I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, it's two
I won't
things.
have to.
Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote.
Moderator
It's
interrupted.
impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out
Oh my
and said,
gosh.
we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected
I should have put
again
Trump
by the
insulting
Supreme
on the
Court.
list.
So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, want to give you your time.
Which,
to
why
respond,
is
but I
that
do want to
bad?
ask,
Like,
would
if
you
people are
support
deciding
any
if it's up to
restrictions
people,
on a woman's
you know?
right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs.
What does that have to do with it?
Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question. Would you veto?
you could do abortions in the
Wait, the
7th
mics aren't
month,
muted.
the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month.
not true.
and
Wait, why is her
probably
mic not muted?
Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security.
Why
We
wasn't
know it's
her
an
mic
issue that's
muted?
important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country.
Chris, did you peep that?
Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden
Yeah, I
getting to
did.
the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is
that's
why did the
shady.
administration wait until
That's
6 months
shady.
before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you
I
will
didn't
not hear
know
him talk
that.
about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their
His
country
ego,
back.
man. He can't.
Our
he
country
can't.
is being
he
lost.
couldn't let
We're
it go.
a failing nation.
That's
couldn't
right.
let it go.
3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our...
I will say this, and it will continue. She is actually handling herself a lot better than I thought she would. So kudos to Kamala. Obviously, this is emotionally charged. I'm not going to lie. It is clearly bias. Not as much as I thought it would be, but like their mics aren't muted. So like I thought that was a part of the thing. I don't know why they didn't. Like, I guess like we don't care about that anymore. Maybe it was a technical error. I mean, we'll see if it happens again anymore throughout. But she's handling herself. Her main thing that's gonna help her is the whole women thing. Because like I feel like just her saying like, oh, women's rights, you know, and a lot of people, they're not gonna read into like the details. They're just gonna be like, oh, I care about women's rights. So I'll give her that. That is a good angle. Good angle, Madam VP.
Our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
True?
And it's a shame.
That sounds
As far
kinda
as
like bullshit,
rallies
I
are
don't
I'm gonna
know.
count
concerned,
that
as
as a
far
lie.
as
I'm gonna
the
agree.
reason they go is they like what I say.
Mhm.
They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this,
seen people on television.
let me just say here, this is
The people on television say
clear-
my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
this city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by...
This is making him look bad. But I will say this: it seems like the moderators are only pushing him. They're not really like. Again, I'm not gonna lie. When he was like, "Oh, ask her about how like the abortion thing," they were like, "Okay, let's move on to the next thing." They should have asked her.
I felt they
I think
pushed
that-
her
that
a
would've
little
been
bit
interesting,
after.
but,
I felt like they pushed her a little bit, like after Trump was pushing on her. Like literally, right after he was pushing on her, they gave her a hard question, like to carry on, like just a little earlier.
I think I do think they should have asked her about like, oh, like up to what, how many months, you know, about the abortion thing. That I think that was a good point, but I think that was a missed opportunity.
9
people
months
that
sounds
want-
absurd to me.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President,
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
Laugh.
You know, this is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney,
Dick
and John
Cheney?
McCain,
That's a flex.
including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney.
No one
And
likes
if
them.
you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind
did
of
pretty good
rhetoric,
the first time.
when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, See, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top
Ooh, that's
people,
a good one.
because that
That's
was
a
one
good
of the
one.
most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
I don't know.
Let me continue on immigration.
Let's count that as a
What you wanted
lie.
to talk
Drink.
about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation
I don't know if that's true or
proposal
not.
that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common
mentioned
street
migrant
criminals.
crime,
They allowed
Frank.
people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
She
For-
mentioned it. Drink.
National security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Same
Excuse
old
me.
tired
That was
page.
Every
good.
one of those cases
Holy
was
shit.
started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York, every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially
mentioned Joe
guilty
Biden,
on the
drink.
documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're
President Trump-
fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A
I don't know
really
about
quick
the
response
fake
here, Vice
cases,
President
but I
Harris,
do
on this
believe
notion
that
of
it was
weaponization of
politically
Justice Department.
motivated. Why?
Well, let's talk about extreme and
obvious.
understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice
That's a lie.
against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president,
We got to
This is the
continue.
one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy
President
with a fake
Trump.
Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get-
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation
Slide.
Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out.
Oh,
in
okay. That was a
Minnesota
good one.
and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left
Is that
liberal
true?
that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's
That
go back
is
to
true.
Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take
By the way, I'm a big
400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in
drink.
just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be
Here we
right
go.
there
They
with
brought
them.
up J6.
The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She
border
was the
czar.
border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world,
Now,
David.
I
All over the
didn't think
world.
he would
And
mention
crime rates are down all
anywhere
over the
but
world
South
because
America.
of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are
you.
those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president.
You
You were
might
watching
ask
it
that
unfold on
question.
television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you
you didn't
regret
answer the
about
question.
what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
That's a lie.
Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia.
That's a lie, guys. That has been
the former
debunked. I'm
president said,
surprised
"Stand
you even
back and
mentioned that
stand
because
by."
like that's been debunked so many
for
times.
everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just
Did
follow
you
up
say
here.
he said that?
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked.
Yeah.
Laura
So
Ingraham,
many times.
Sean Hannity, Jesse,
many times.
all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring
That is
2025
true. I'm not gonna lie.
up.
So wait,
They
I'm gonna
bring
pause it real
all of
quick.
this up.
That was so like I wasn't paying attention to anything political or anything like that back in the day. And I remember when I heard that, I was like, that's crazy. But it was much later when I actually saw the full speech or whatever, or address where he said that. And he specifically, like when I like that is, and it's weird because like Biden mentioned, now when Biden mentioned it, like he mentioned it at the DNC, I think. It's like he's old, you know, like his brain's melting. He doesn't like so I could see that, but like the fact that she mentioned it, but here, guys, I'm not gonna lie, Harris is doing a good job. She's mentioning things that, because get this, guys, anyone who's watching this, they already know who they're voting for. The debate really doesn't matter. Things are so crazy right now. People are going to be looking for L's on both sides, regardless of like depending on like who they're in favor of. Even myself, you know, I'm a little guilty of that. And I don't think I think that all the points that she's mentioning are just going to fuel the fire, and for him too. They're both fueling the fire of the people that already support them. I don't really think the numbers are going to change, but I will say this: Harris is doing a much better job than I thought she would, because she's bringing up she's the emotional points. These are things that it's the same narratives that people agree with, and same for him. He's bringing up the same things. I mean, it's not over yet, so I'm hoping they get into more things. But yeah, let's keep going.
Up. I ask you this: you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come
Keep watching, guys. I'll be right back.
And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you, because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
But
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I
doesn't
didn't
sound
check
true.
the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said
They
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia,
do a special
and I'll
on
show
it.
you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice
Dying,
President Harris,
David.
you heard the president there tonight.
Dying.
He said he didn't say that. That he lost by a
Nation's
whisker. So he
dying.
still believes he did not
It's gonna be
lose the
fantastic.
election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we
That I
cannot
agree with.
afford to have a president of the
He's mad
United
'cause he lost
States
2020.
who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom work with you, and they say you're a disgrace.
I think that's a lie.
And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
They do, Kamala.
Let me just tell you about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that, but he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
I don't understand.
I think we're doing very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected.
Like to call into the show and join us, guys. The link is pinned in the YouTube chat.
You said that 9 months ago.
If
now
you're watching
an
on
estimated
Instagram or Facebook,
40,000
go over to the channel.
Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up. Far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Yeah. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror, and they are spheres of terror, horrible terror.
Spheres
They
of
had no
terror.
money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president,
I do wonder
I'll
that.
get
I
it
wonder,
done
like, if he was still
before
president,
even
like, what would have
becoming
happened? Like, with the
president.
same
Vice President
things
Harris,
have,
he says you hate
know,
Israel.
That's
transpired. I don't
absolutely
know.
not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he
I
admires
disagree there.
dictators,
His foreign policy was
wants to
pretty
be a
good.
dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
I
including
agree,
the importance of
Kamala.
upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that caused it. That's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it.
I think he was trolling,
Because what
honestly,
he's
'cause I
gotten
heard
away
that
with
too. I
is
saw that.
absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right. First break. Wow. Interesting stuff, guys. Interesting stuff. Chris, how you feeling about it so far?
So now it's nice to see how these guys bounce back, like, with each other. They actually shook hands when they walked up to each other. That was one of the things I was curious about.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. She's doing. Well, they always do that with debates. You know, you always have to, shake hands. I'm not gonna lie. She's doing pretty good. She's doing pretty good. Much better.
Yeah. What
than,
about Trump? How do you feel that? How do you feel Trump?
Than
is
I
doing?
would have thought.
How do you feel about Trump? How do you feel about?
Honestly, I would argue that he's doing the same thing he always does, which like people who like Trump, they're gonna be like, oh, cool. But I don't think. Here's the thing. He's not doing what both of them should be worried about is convincing the people that are critical of them to be in their favor. And he's doing all the things that people who don't like him say that he does. So like he's cutting them off, and no matter what he says, it's going to be he's lying. And then no matter what she says, he's going to say she's lying. So it's kind of it's like I said earlier, it's like no matter what, like this isn't really gonna this isn't about convincing people.
You're talking about like closed-minded
or,
people though.
Yeah.
like you're talking about closed-minded people though that would just like jump into that conclusion even if someone's saying something that like debunking that in a debate. Like I feel Trump's performance in this debate
Okay.
is like sharp. And that's one of the things that I was curious by is how his approach to Kamala would be. Like some people have been curious about it because she's a woman, which I found to be an interesting aspect of the debate. But it's good to see that he hasn't really lost a beat in that talent that he has to like keep speech and be concise as well. And I do think that Kamala was kind of struggling at a certain point because I think she was really caught off guard by that. Like considering the restrictions that they created for the TV show. But as you saw, the mics weren't muted like in the middle of it, which made everything even more interesting. And this isn't a traditional debate like it hasn't been in the last one, but at least,
it's always more interesting when it's not muted.
Yeah, and also they're not interrupting each other. They're not being uncivilized, but they are being contentious to each other. Like they obviously don't like each other. So it's, I mean, so far so good. I would say that
Sure.
Kamala's charisma has to be better because that's something that's really taking her down, on my opinion.
That's why I said she should lean into the Auntie Kamala thing. Like I think because like she was voted like the most unlikable, VP in like history before it was Dick Cheney, which I think is really funny that he endorsed her. But yeah, if she was a little more like
so Shannon, fuck. It just left me. Well, the thing with Dick Cheney is that Trump talked shit about Dick Cheney and the Bush administration, like the Bush administration, basically. And I think it's like just a fuck you to him for them to endorse Kamala. I think that's where that comes from.
I think everyone who is like, oh, Kamala, it's just because they don't like Trump. Which I mean, again, everyone's entitled to their opinion if that's how you feel. But like, I really, again, it's the issues, which I'm glad. Like, you're right. They are both. They are being very concise. They're both like making their point. I think there was only once for both of them where they didn't answer the question directly and they had to be asked more than once to like answer it directly. But,
like with Trump with January 6th.
You know what? Yeah, like he was like, it's Nancy Pelosi's fault.
The one thing I do recognize is that he remembers the name of the woman who was shot.
Well, yeah.
It surprised me that he remembered the name of the victim that they were referring to. Like he was very quick with it, and I'm like, all right, he said her name. You know what I mean? Like he understands like the gravity of that situation and to show humanity in the debate that does bring him up. And I also do want to mention that Kamala was at her best when she was bringing up like when she was bringing up January 6th, when she was bringing up the fact that he didn't concede the election, just all the things that people like mostly hate him on. Like she was really hitting him on that.
Yeah, and she
then
when she's also
emotional,
wording it.
I'm sorry.
No,
go
I'm
ahead.
saying she like I agree with you. She's also wording it in a way that like you could tell it fucks with him, and he's letting it fuck with him.
No, nothing fucks with him. The only thing that fucked with him was when she said his rallies aren't popular. That's the only thing that cracked him. That is the only thing. And now it's like you have a strategy. You can just take his ego down. Just say he's got a little dick. Yeah, just straight up fucking mess with him and then he'll lose. But all they're doing is they're going about things like bureaucratically or whatever the fuck. I'm probably saying the word wrong, but like just traditionally, they should actually like hit it off like he is a little bit, because it seems that he's kind of changing the construct of like how we do things in a way of debating. Because
it's because he's not a politician. Like think about it, she's a politician. He technically
neither was Ronald Reagan at a certain point. I mean, he was in politics when he ran for president, but it's like you always. It is interesting that like he is kind of a president we haven't voted for before, because prior to that we always usually had a president who had political experience and like just played the part, and he's not a president like that at all. He's absolutely different, and he is very hyperbole when he talks about himself. Like let's not Let's not mix that shit up. But at the same time, he has such charisma.
That's why he wants to be president, dude. Now, I do think that one thing about Trump, like people be like, oh, it's his ego, it's his ego. I do agree. He cares about his legacy and how he looks. However, I think that just from looking at his past presidency and the things that he's claiming that he's going to do, I think he's like, oh, I'll just do what the people like and I'll actually fix things, is in the best way that I think how, and they'll just praise me and love me. But it is about him being praised and loved. He cares about that more than anything else.
And you think you're willing to sacrifice a vote for him to run you? It's a guy that really has, it seems like he has himself face forward. Like, but
get this. If I can reap the benefits, like if you're telling me that, like, it's about the issues, like, because again, like they're all in this for themselves, it's good for their careers, it's good for their resume, so I can dig that. But if you're telling me that, like, he can have his cake and I can eat it too, or she can have her cake and I can eat it too, if they can get this, they're obviously both in it for their egos, or for their resumes to some degree. They want to win. I'm cool with that. That's human nature, and this is a competition, right? So, but if I can benefit from that as a citizen, fuck it, let them be egotistical assholes. And it's same thing for Harris, guys. If Harris, again, because she's a career politician, so if this is about making like herself look good and like she wants to do good on her resume, but I can reap the benefits, then I'm for Kamala. If Trump wants to make himself look good and I can reap the benefits, then I'm for Donald Trump. That is important. It's about the issues. Let's continue, guys, because they are back. Here we go. Is this there we go.
And we're going to continue here. And I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it's been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty. They're arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said solve this war in 20 said so for the break tonight. Will you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting with your fake numbers. Look,
with your
we're
fake
in for
number.
250 billion or more, because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening.
That's a good point.
We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's our president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up.
Yeah, and Trump with the
Just to clarify
zingers, the way he words things.
Do you
is like
believe it's
so
in the
like,
U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
I'm going to set the Instagram
Well,
stream back up.
first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility. in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
You talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up.
He can't help
He said,
himself.
I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Oh.
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents
Yeah.
said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We
Oh,
would have been out
man,
faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal.
What do you mean,
In
these
my
people?
opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your
Whatever
words.
she-
So I'm
I don't
asking,
know.
He's
I don't
okay
know. I
with
mean,
me.
all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's
Either
up to
one
her.
was okay
That's up to her.
with me.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
Oh,
You know, I
Paul,
do
now
believe
that
the
is,
vast
I'm
majority
sorry, the
of us
Democrats
know that we
use
have so
race-
much
oh,
more in
no,
common than what
no.
separates us, and we don't want
Won't allow it.
this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was a land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because
Oh, this is the first
he
time she got
refused to
tripped
rent
up.
property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys
Was it
who
because
were
they were black and
innocent,
Latino?
the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States.
Is it?
And
Was
I
it
think the
because he was
American
black?
people want better than that.
Was it
want better than
because
this.
of their race though?
Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country.
Yeah.
We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other.
But it's not
I
about
meet with
race.
people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country.
I agree
There's
with
never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our
It's gonna be
economy.
fantastic.
They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is
I don't know
Biden.
the gentleman. she
The
said.
worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it
That was
so
a good
bad,
play for him to bring it
and
back
she
to
can't
the
get
issues.
away with that.
Thank you. Time's up.
I
Lindsay.
want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership.
But you've
for our
been in
country.
leadership.
One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage
Bringing
of
it
your
back to the
child's
issues.
development. I
Good.
have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page.
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's turn
Trump,
back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's
now they're
guns.
just
President
She
Trump,
back and
has a
you
forth.
have
They're
to
plan
move
back
on
and
to
to
forth.
other
not allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond.
President
because,
Trump-
no, the
President
former
Trump-
president has
No,
said
I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry.
I
We're
just
gonna
need to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your
Yes.
third time running for president.
Yes,
You
yes.
have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care.
Obamacare was-
It's not very good today.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I
And
signed
what
with
I
Obamacare
said, that
and
if
it
we
kinda
come
screwed
up
me.
with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But
Never had
remember this,
Obamacare.
I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people, a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not
That
have
is a
I
fair,
have
realistic
concepts of a
answer.
plan. I'm not president
Yeah,
right
okay.
now. But if
I'm not president.
we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and
The
options
media's gonna fuck
we
with him
have
with that one.
to do that. And you'll be hearing about it
Yeah,
in
I
the
was
not
thinking.
too
I mean,
distant
that's.
future.
Vice
He kept it a buck. He was like, "Fuck no." I was like, "I don't know, man. It's a mess." I'm thinking about it. Like, can we all admit that he is at least funny? And I think you're right. Like, if she was just a little funnier and like a little more, like, I'm not gonna lie, she's had a few.
She
zingers.
doesn't need to be funnier.
But,
She needs to be a convincing person. She just doesn't have that inflection. She doesn't have that tone. She kind of winces sometimes. It's really weird. But yeah,
Like, would you say that it doesn't look like she's confident? She seems. This is the most confident I've ever seen her, if I'm honest.
yeah. Sometimes she is. Like sometimes she does have good ones to give them, but there are points like she doesn't. So
All right.
like it's not consistent.
President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, let's just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
Pass this
President
prologue
Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a
She
lot.
made a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump.
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate.
Oh, it's heating up, kids. It is heating up. Man, I'm not gonna lie. This is not the kind of entertaining that I thought it would be. But this is good. This is a good one. What I hope is, yeah.
No, I was gonna say this is better than I thought it was gonna be. Like, I think there should be a second debate, cause yeah, like I just think this should be another one after this one. I just felt like it was gonna probably be a disaster, like, and just white noise, same old, but.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was gonna be a disaster. I think everyone probably thought it was gonna be a disaster.
Yeah, they bounced off with each other, and like things didn't seem to work out the way they said it would on the team. Like the way they were talking about the debate, to keep the mics muted, but like it's still going smoothly, you know. And I just want to see where this goes so far.
Honestly, I don't even know. Like, so far, I'm like it's like, who won the debate? Who argued better? I would say it's 50-50 so far. Like, for me, I'm like, hey, they're both kind of bringing the heat about both of their points. The only time they both stumbled, and they were both getting like up about the race thing. But other than that, damn.
I don't feel like Trump stumbled. I don't really feel like Trump stumbled anywhere except for when his rallies were brought up. And when it comes to Kamala, there were some.
So I meant like literally.
Like she slipped a couple times, but she was bringing up really good points. And then there were moments where I was like, I see the leader in her, like when she talks with confidence. And that's what I really want her to bring out more into the debate. That's why I feel like they should continue this conversation.
You know what? This debate actually might. I think this will be a confidence boost for her. I think we might, like, after this, we might see more interviews with her. We might get a second debate. However, I don't necessarily think we will still. Like, even before, like, I'm like, I don't know. Just because it's. Again, this is kind of a weird situation that they're in, like her joining so late and everything like that. But yeah, not bad.
Yeah, hopefully this is a learning experience for her, like for real. Like that she learns from this, because she now knows like Trump's ruthless. Like he will get out of the way, just like how he did now with like Trump with talking about Biden's corruption. Like right there, you know, he kept a composure. But still, it's like the fact he's throwing one thing after another, and he's known as a pathological liar. Like, I'm wondering how he's responding to.
He's quote known as a pathological liar. I don't. Yes. I think they both like lie, like shit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's lies, but then there's someone who lies like all the time. That's that. That's what they're saying.
Yes. Dope.
Dude, the moderators gave up. Like, you hear me? The moderators just gave up.
Yeah, with both of them.
Yeah, like they just, because usually they'll stop and then they'll ask a question, but then when someone says something, the other person always had to like say, "Oh no," like just you're right. They just gave up with both of them because they were going back and forth. Like, they really do hate each other. And that says a lot on like where our country's headed right now, where our leaders, like, and leaders on different factions, like they actually truly hate each other. And that really kind of concerns me and in the stance of like the democratic process. Because if you do not have bipartisanship in this country, if it dwindles in the way that it looks like it is between two candidates, like that just gives me a little bit of concern.
civil war and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a
Well,
little
no,
spooky.
no, that's jumping into the conclusion of it.
If I'm
all.
honest, like, that's
That is that how you feel about it? Like Civil War, like going right to Civil War.
I don't.
Is
I
that-
don't. I mean, I've heard people say it before, but like, I think
I mean,
certain
yeah, that's-
things.
those are
I
things in
highly
the
doubt that
conversation, yeah.
either will let it get to that point. But
Yeah, nah, it's
just because again, it is really divisive.
it's just the process of politics, that the way it's going, like, and the way this debate is going, like, it's just a little bit. And you notice at some point, Kamala interrupted Trump, you know, and she had her mic turned off. You know what I mean? You remember that? He was like, "Excuse me," and he kept talking.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm talking. Remember that? Like that was a good one.
He said that at
He-
another
that-
point, but yeah,
that-
he
that
did
was a
say
good one.
that. That was pretty slick. And I want to know the 16 Nobel laureates that don't like Trump. I want to know. Like, I'm gonna look that up later, because that's one of the things.
There's a
Kamala
few
had.
things that I want to look up, like a lot of the stuff as far as like the pulling out of Iran stuff. Like, I don't think I'm as brushed up on that or know like the details the way I should. I think honestly, Trump should have mentioned the guys that were killed. I think that would have probably helped them. But I do think that Kamala, yeah, she, hey man, they're all doing good. All right, closing statements, guys.
Yeah, Trump's in his free form.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward.
Do you really think that,
And
Kamala?
a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams.
Did it go
happened
mute?
again. 1 second. Closing statements. We're almost there. There we go.
Investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do. But
Didn't
you
I
haven't
say
done it,
that?
and you won't do it because you believe. believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
Applause.
Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
That went better than I thought it would.
Well done, guys. A whole lot better. Like I don't think anyone man, I'm not gonna lie, eating a little bit of crow, man. I mean, damn. Can't be mad at that. Can't be mad at that. Well, it's a good thing that I stopped drinking because I went through four root beers. If they were IPAs or liquor, yeah, I'd be done. Alcohol poisoning. Okay, so honestly, it's like we said, like the last commercial break. I don't think. I don't know who won the debate. I think they both brought it, which is something I don't think. Again, they both brought it in, and they're both respectable, like in their own way. That would help them and what they're standing for and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, hey, cool. Cute. Now, I am very curious because we already know tomorrow. I said this with the Harris interview. Tomorrow, it's going to be, oh, she's terrible. And then tomorrow, it's also going to be, oh, he lied. All he did was lie. Guys, let's be real here. They both argued pretty well. Her debate training obviously paid off. I don't care that Trump was being, going his debate prep with Tulsi Gabbard because Trump does this for real. I think everyone was kind of wondering how she would perform, and I would say that she performed a hell of a lot better than I thought she would. So kudos to Madam VP, kudos to Mr. President. They both did a very good job. I would say it was not a train wreck. In my opinion, and I'm just a normie, guys. I'm just a regular Joe. Oh no, Chris is the regular Joe. I'm the a wee bit informed regular Joe. But that was good. That was good.
I'd say we both in like the same place.
Yeah, we're just two schmucks.
Yep, pretty much. That's how I see it. We're just two schmucks. We talk about two candidates that are said to be puppets for something that really rules us, but we decide
they're both just the faces of their parties.
Yeah, there you go. And like who you think performed better personally? And you said you can't make a decision.
I don't know.
You did.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, but it seemed like you had certain problems with what Kamala said at some points.
Just because, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna vote for Trump for one right now, and that's for like multiple reasons. But as far as Kamala, again, like I didn't like the again the Charlottesville thing. It's like, oh come on, like that's BS. You know, like again, it's just that's been debunked so many times. But if I'm honest, other than that, because they both said things that like made me chuckle. Other than that, she argued her point very well. Now the real thing is, were they lying? Now there were several points where it was obvious that they both lied because it's just like, okay, that's not true. With Trump, I think he was being very dramatic about some of the things that he said, and yeah, I guess Kamala was too, but yeah, he was being dramatic, but I think that's just how he talks, which I guess he's more entertaining than she is. But she stuck to the points, and something that I also really liked is when I forget what was the question. I forget what it was, but they both went to the issues. Like Trump did it first, and then she interrupted him, and then that's the first place she went as well. And I think that's good. I think that's what a lot of people are concerned about. They're like, yo, like we don't care about how much you don't like each other. Talk about the shit that we care about. What are you gonna do? So, and she actually did that. I also think that it helps that she finally posted her positions. I think that this might have been the plan. Maybe they were like, oh, let's see how the debate goes. And then after that, hopefully she starts doing more interviews. I would love another debate. I'd be curious to see that because whenever they schedule it, more stuff is going to happen, guys. There's more news stuff every day about both of them. Oh, he did this, she did this. And the political commentators, they're gonna pour gasoline on the fire, but that was civil, I would say. They both actually, no, I'm not gonna lie, Trump did exactly what I thought he would do. It wasn't that different. Kamala, I would say, was the surprise today. She brought it in her way. I do agree. She went. There were several. It was kind of like up and down. There were moments where she seemed very confident and sure, and then other moments where it seemed like she was just saying the safe thing, which also makes sense. If you don't know. And I also do, even though it's like, dude, you don't have a plan. Trump's transparency about the Obamacare thing, he straight up was like, I don't know, man, I'm not president yet. I don't know, but if I don't have a plan, we'll just try to tweak what is to the best of our ability. And that honestly, I think people like that kind of transparency, but we have to give it to Kamala too, because she at least gave points on how she would do it. And whether or not, because a lot of people will say about Kamala, like, oh, well, she wasn't with, like he mentioned several times, like, oh, well, she wasn't with that before, she wasn't with that before. People don't care about that. And that same thing goes for the Trump people. They don't care about the past. All they care when it comes to the past, they only care about what the other person's past. They don't really care about the candidate that they're for, the person that they're maybe leaning more towards. People who are undecided, I don't know what's going through those people's heads. I'm sure this debate is like, I don't know. Like this, like it is. I don't think the debate was so good, in my opinion, that I think it would make it harder for people who are on the fence and don't know what they're going to do. It makes it a little harder. So, but I think that also would force, kind of like, we both said there were several things where we're like, oh, I need to look a little more into that, which is good because people need to, again, I said earlier, I don't want to read. No one wants to read. Trump said it. He was
for me,
like,
it's the 16 Nobel laureates. That's what I want to read into.
Boom.
Yeah. But I think
that was good. We are at the.
I was gonna say how I felt about it. I
go
thought
ahead.
it was like back and forth. Okay.
Which is what you want in a debate, I would say. You want it to be, you want it to be like that. But yeah, guys, I think we're at the 3-hour mark. I think we're gonna call it for the night. Thank you for joining us. If you watched at home and you're drunk, sorry. But yeah. Oh, great. Chris bailed. All right. Well, guys, thank you again for joining us. Boom. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, we appreciate you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, guys, peace out.